Namaste, folks. Let's start on your feet. If you are in a chair, you are just sitting in your chair. We're just here to check in, right? We're scanning the body, noticing where the sensations are, what the sensations are. Include sensations that tell you about how you're breathing. Include anything that tells you about your general energy state. If there's thoughts going on, notice them, but let them pass on. Keep scanning the physical structure. Now, last time we talked a very little bit about lining up things so that your bones will do the work for you, and you can do that while you're sitting or standing and checking in. The best place for your feet is below your hip joints. That's not the outside of your hips. That front hip bone that you may be able to feel, or if you find about the middle of your butt cheeks, one heel between each of those, beneath each of those, will do it. You like to have your arms hanging off your back rather than off the front of you where they're always doing a ton of work. And if you can think of stacking your hips up over your heels and your ankles, your ribs over your hips, your head over your ribs, it's as simple and as not so easy as that. But do the best you can. And let's spend a moment more with the breath. So find the place where you feel like your breath starts. There are no wrong answers unless it's somewhere outside your body. We want to look for where does it start in you. Do you feel it where your lungs start to expand, or maybe it's up in your chest? Maybe you're aware of where your breath comes in your nostrils first. Just follow your breath cycle from that beginning point until you exhale and come to the end of the exhalation again, and then start following that next breath. And let's keep this alignment and get into your shoulder joint. So last time we moved shoulder blades and shoulders all together. This time we're going to focus more on moving the arms in the joint itself. That does not mean that you have to hold your shoulder blades still. And you can start with little circles with your elbows and then get bigger and bigger and bigger. Maybe you can actually get them to touch in front of you. Maybe they'll point to the ceiling a little bit behind you. If they touch behind you, wow. We definitely don't want to look for that level of mobility. And then change directions, do a little bit in the other direction. And if you find a little place that feels like, wow, this is stiff and tight and I want to go back and forth, absolutely stop and go back and forth. If you notice that you're doing an awful lot of this in your ribs, welcome to overworking your lower back. You and a whole lot of the rest of us. See if you can keep the ribs stable while you move the arms. We'll do a little bit more with that in a moment. And then let your arms rest. Notice what you feel in your shoulders or anywhere else. And if you have access to a wall or a corner, let's make use of that. So we did that last week or last month in Samastiti. I'm going to use a corner. You can use a wall. I want to remind you that we are not looking to get rid of your curves. If you don't like the shape of your butt, I sympathize, but you need it, right? So in a corner, the lovely thing when that corner sticks out is you can get that between your butt cheeks. And you have a chance, if your spine will let you and other body structures, to line up so that the ribs touch the corner just below the shoulder blades. You may find that they touch between the shoulder blades, right? We don't want to force anything, but we're going to start noticing what's going on in the ribs here. And maybe the base of your skull will touch. If you are against the wall and you have lovely, round, well-developed gluteals back there, you don't want to try to force your ribs or your head against the wall, but you want to notice the space between your ribs and the wall. If you are sitting in a chair and you have a straight back to that chair, you can use it the way you use a wall. Otherwise, you're just going to notice, if you can, feeling with your hands all the way up to see what does it feel like. So we want to notice, especially down at the bottom of the ribs, because a lot of us tend to stand up straight by pulling our ribs up, right? And it puts us into a forced back bend here. So can you let those ribs drop down onto the front of the hips? And that'll put, if you're against that corner, that will put more of the ribs against the wall. And if you are standing with a wall behind you and you have something quick that you can use to fill in that space, you can feel those ribs press into that little bit of towel or whatever you've got as you learn to drop them down. You have the rest of your life to perfect this. You don't have to try and get it all today. We want to keep those ribs lowered because whether you're in a chair or standing, we are going to take arms up without letting the ribs go and then bring them back down. Hand position has the palms facing each other. We would love to have the elbows fully extended. You want to have the sense that your elbow on the side of your arm is being pushed up off of your underarm. So yes, we are stretching some things. We're going to Urdhva Hastasana, which just translates as upward hands. And once you get used to that idea of what it feels like, take the arms up, check your ribs, check your ribs, check your ribs. So I want to pause to note that for some of you, taking your arms up might be here. That may be past that, maybe a place where bad things are happening. This should not be painful. You can work around the edge of your resistance. Pushing through that resistance isn't helpful. Right? Working around the edge absolutely is. Eventually, we'd love to be able to have those arms up so that if you are close to a wall, you may even feel your thumbs touch the wall. Notice how the back of the neck is responding to this too. Are you suddenly crunching up the back of your neck? If you are, lower the hands in front of you a little bit more. When you get to the point where all of this here is flexible enough to let you get into Urdhva Hastasana, with the ribs dropped, your shoulder blades will settle right back down onto your rib cage. Otherwise, they tend to pull up into the neck while we're in that in-between place. We want to find a minimal strain on the back of the neck. One more breath while you're here. Reach for the ceiling, press into the floor with your heels, and then let your arms come on back down. And again, notice what happened in the shoulders. Notice if something else happened in the body here, in the torso. Did anything happen in the legs? How are you breathing? So let's see what happens if you try to get your hands behind you. Can you interlace your hands like this, but behind your back? If the answer is no, you're going to grab a belt or a strap and you are going to hang on to that. There it is. I didn't even pull them out. So you just want to take hold of the belt or the strap with your palms facing forward. And as close as you're able to get your hands without aggravating your shoulders and without having to bend your elbows. We'd love for the elbows to be straight. So for some of you, that could look like this. If you do a lot of work building up your pecs up here, it's going to be tough to get them to open and stretch for you. Otherwise, we would like to be able to, without getting those ribs going, we would like to be able to take the hands down the back. Now, if you're in a chair, you will probably want to sit toward the front edge of the chair, or if it's not a very wide back chair, you want to sit all the way toward the back of the chair, and you'll take your arms around the back of your chair into this interlace. And just let the interlace do the work. Yes, your shoulder blades can move. They can come closer together. And yes, if there's a little bit of flexibility, you can play with, will my hands move away from the back of the chair or from the back of my body. Now, if you start moving your hips or you start moving your ribs, you can feel like you're doing a whole lot, but that's not the point. We're still working the shoulder joint, looking to free some of that up. So one more thing before you let go of that interlace. If you have your hands interlaced, which thumb is on top? Now let go. Observe for a moment. And then change the interlace so that the other thumb is on top. And it's not just the thumb, you notice. I am changing the fingers all the way down, right? And you're going to do that behind your back, and it might feel like the weirdest thing you've done in a long time. Just that ½ inch difference. So spend a moment just getting used to that. I'm going to finesse this a little bit more. If you can have the elbows straight, can you get the palms to touch? We would like that rather than an open palm. We're looking to get as much of an opening across this upper chest here. And collarbones out to your arms. Check your ribs. How are they doing? Do you still feel like you're stacked up with your feet hip distance apart? Last set of classes, we were focusing on outer edge of the feet, going straight forward so that we've got kind of parallel feet there. And remember, the weight is more back on the heels because we're not going anywhere. We're just standing still. What happened with your lower ribs? I'm going to point them out again. And then see if there's any room for playing here in the shoulder joint. And P.S., if you decide you want to hold it there, yes, absolutely. One thing we don't want to do, right? So I talked about you can move your hips, you can move your ribs. The other thing you can move is your shoulders and your head. Not a good idea, right? It doesn't do anything much in the shoulder joint, right? Instead, we're basically just taking the shoulder blades over the top and then craning our neck while we round the rib cage up at the top. And that can feel good. It's a thing. But we're looking to get into the front of the body here, the chest. I want to remind you of your life, right? Steering wheel's in front of you, the kitchen counter is in front of you, the computer is in front of you, the children are in front of you. Anything that you're doing, most of it is in front of you, right? So we need to get these muscles that are constantly working in a shortened state back to some length. And then let it go and observe again. And if you've noticed that you've warmed up a bit just from doing some things in your shoulders, yeah, welcome to what happens when you get muscle fibers and all the rest of that active. Let's build on the standing pose that we did last time. So this is the sticky mat that I lay out so that my feet don't slide. You don't necessarily need it. Start with your feet about the distance of one of your legs if you can. If that sends you onto the inside of your feet, or if that sends you into misery in your inner thighs, just go less distance, right? But eventually we're looking about the length of one of our legs, and you can start to even go a little further. And we're going to start to play a little bit here. So you're just going to do the twist. Notice I'm letting my heels pick up and move, and I'm letting my hips turn back and forth, right? You can also do that by staying on your heels and letting your feet go one way to the other. If your hips are not turning, I would like you to start letting them turn intentionally. Because yes, we are rotating our legs, but we want to make sure that the hips are following. We are not just rotating our feet, so your knees should be going with your feet. We're looking to rotate up here, some in the hip joint and some in the waist, because at the moment we're just playing. So let's twist the feet all the way to the left. So if we put 12 o'clock over there on the short end of your mat on the left side, your left foot is going to point toward 12 o'clock. Your right foot is going to point out towards about 2 o'clock. Then we're going to turn both legs away from each other as if you're trying to turn out. And then your hips are where they are. We add a twist. So we're building on Padasana, was that starfish shape that we did in the last series. And this is Parsva Padasana, which is spreading your feet wide, turning them to the side. And we add that standing twist so that we can then reach the arms side to side the way we did in Padasana. So the upper torso is reaching straight across the room while you've got your hips and your legs turned. I'm going to remind you that you are turning both legs outward, even though you have one foot turned out and one foot turned in. That'll help put some stability in your foundation down here, from your feet into your legs, into your hips. And Padasana had that starfish sort of reach. So from the center, down into both heels, up, out the top of your head, and up a little bit, and then out the tips of all the fingers. Without losing the twist in your ribs, so many steps, right? Without losing that twist in your ribs, can you turn your head toward the left? So toward the left for you might be just a little bit. We are not looking to crane your neck. We are also not looking to untwist in the ribs. And hang out there for a moment. I'll remind you, if your arms get heavy, they will be less heavy if you shorten them. And you can still keep that reach even if you're reaching through your elbows. If you are on a chair, you are simply sitting with your legs extended and your arms extended. And then turn both feet so that they're straight forward again. Let your arms relax. If you need a rest, bring your feet in. It's a good moment while I take a second here to be a little more clear about the chair version. So if we're going to the right on the chair, I'm going to twist a little bit here. And I'm just noticing that my setup is no longer mirroring the direction. So if you feel like I'm going to the left while saying right, go toward your right. So do you notice I sat here, I got my legs wide, and then I just turned both my legs in the direction of that front foot to the right. So my feet won't go all the way in that direction, and yours should not either. We're just loosely turning those legs, and then we can twist here and do the rest that way. So let's get into that one on the other side from standing. So we're turning the feet. We moved the clock, right? 12 o'clock is now over here on this short side. Right foot toward that 12 o'clock. Left foot turned in toward the 11 o'clock position now. Both thighs turn away from each other. Rib cage turns so that it's parallel with this long mat, and then the arms reach parallel with the long mat. Right? Find your starfish, right? From the center, roughly your navel, down into the heels and outside edges of your feet, up and out the top of the head. What happened to your ribs? Did they suddenly thrust forward? Can you keep them dropped in line? Out to the ends of the fingers. And then without losing that twist in the ribs, will the head turn to the right? So again, Parsvapadasana, standing with wide legs turned, with feet turned to the side. I'm going to remind you again, the legs turn away from each other. The thighs are turning outward. So think ballet dancer or duck, but your feet stay glued. Can you lengthen just a little bit more? Are you still breathing? And then turn the feet forward. And any way that you can get the feet underneath you that is safe is good. If you want to spring, go for it. If it's just step, start training the landing for when your legs are ready to spring. If you are sitting on the chair, just bring yourself back to that neutral position. Last check-in while you're standing or sitting in neutral, and then we're going to head down to the floor. So if you haven't been sitting on the floor for a while, you might want to create a stack for yourself. Maybe you've got a bunch of blankets that you can fold up. Maybe you need a bunch of pillows. Maybe it's blocks and things. If you are in a chair, I'm going to mention that if you have a footstool or a second chair, that can help, because we'll be putting feet up on the chair. Or you can just, if you don't have access, don't panic. You can just leave your feet on the floor. We're going to come to sit cross-legged, Sukhasana in yoga. Sweet pose, smiling pose. So this one, from tradition to tradition, it will change in terms of what yoga teachers ask you for. If you have been told something different to what I'm about to tell you, or if you get told something different in the future, nobody is wrong. They're just variations within yoga. So the tradition in which I was trained crosses the ankles for Sukhasana. And we're allowing the weight of the legs, which are turned out, by the way, to drop down toward the floor. And meanwhile, we're stacking up the bones from the sits bones that we're sitting on, through the ribs, up to the top of the head, arms hanging off the back. If it sounds like a lot of steps and you're going, I can't remember, it's okay. I will tell you over and over and over until you're sick of me telling you. Eventually, all of these different bits and pieces fit together and start to make sense. So notice which ankle you've crossed in front. How is the other foot, right? So one heel is underneath the leg that's behind it, and the leg that's behind has got the foot underneath the shin of the leg that's in front, right? And that might be creating issues in your feet. You can use things like towels or whatever you have around you to create a little bit of padding, right? There's also can be an issue in terms of how are your inner thighs doing with all of this. And you can use supportive props. You know, the idea that we have to go to the end range of our stretch in order to make changes is a really dangerous fallacy. Our tissues will let go better with some support. So for some of you, it may be, tip your blocks way up. In which case, I would like you to build your platform higher, because once we get these knees way up there, I want you to see what happens in my back. So the knees go up. Notice I tilted back. I'm no longer on my bones. And that's the part that's most important. So if your knees have to go way up, you can't build yourself a high enough platform to make it comfortable, take your feet further away from you. And you may still need the support, but again, we want that spine built up with some integrity. And then if this has been really uncomfortable, let your legs escape to a place that is comfortable, because we're going to cross the other ankle in front. So again, how are the feet? How's your spine? And how are your inner thighs? There are a lot of places you can put your arms. So I'm gently resting the sides of my hands out on my thighs because that's an easy length for me. My elbows are way back by my side seams, and that's where we want them. We want the arms to hang off the back. Now, if your arms are shorter, your hands may be pulled way back, or you may feel like you just want to let your hands go down to the floor. Absolutely. Do the thing. Or you may want to rest your hands on a block. You may want to rest your hands in your lap. As long as you're not pulling your shoulder blades around and shortening side to side, the chest, there are lots of options for you. So let's sit in Sukhasana for a moment or two longer. Just notice what you're feeling. Are you trying to lift your legs up because it's uncomfortable to hold them down? That's a sure signal that you need some support under there, because you need to be able to let those thigh bones just drop into gravity. A lot of us don't turn our legs out this way, right? If our legs were turned in neutral, we'd be this way. And then we turned them out, right? And we crossed ankles. And here we are, Sukhasana. If this is a comfortable way to sit, hang out here. If it's not a comfortable way to sit, and I'm going to change my ankles, find a comfortable way to sit. So if you're sitting in the chair and you'd rather go back to neutral, have at it. You're just going to take your fingertips. We don't tend to think of our face as being something that needs yoga, but yeah, it's part of our body. We're just going to wake things up at the moment with very gentle tapping. So you're using all your fingers, piano, typewriter, computer keyboard, and just very gently around the forehead. Get extremely gentle over the temples here. You can tap under the eyes, very, very gentle there. That skin is very delicate, friable. And then you can get a little more enthusiastic, perhaps, around your cheeks. If you want to go up and down your nose, be gentle again, because remember, you'll be closing your nostrils as you tap, and we don't happen to love that instinctually. And you can tap the upper lip. Lots of area around the cheeks, right? And then the jaw, from the chin all the way out to the ears. You can do some tapping by lifting the chin, going underneath your chin, up and down the neck a bit. So bringing circulation in, but we're also stimulating those cells, and then I'm going to go back up my face again to the forehead again. We're stimulating those cells that build new fabric, skin, connective tissue, muscle fibers, all the rest of that. And then just let yourself relax again. Arms still hanging off your back. And notice what you feel on your face. Okay, I'm going to give you the chair option first for the next posture that we're doing. Because for some of you, your hips, which may already be complaining from Sukhasana, will be really unhappy with the next one if you don't have an option. So the chair option for Bharadvajasana, Bharadva was one of the sages, and a lot of the twisting poses are named after those sages. We're going to take our feet over to our right side. I think I'm going to try and mirror here. So I think I'm mirroring you. And we're really solid on our two sits bones. And if this is not a comfortable place for your feet, for the moment, just bring them right back into neutral, because you can certainly do that. We will be twisting very gently away from the feet once I set everybody up on the floor. So on the floor, you will almost certainly need to sit up on something. You can start, if you're able, so this might be a yes, she thinks we can start there. You can start sitting on your heels and then shift your bottom over to the right, right? Or if that's not possible, start sitting on your thing, whatever it is. I'm choosing a block, but you don't have to choose a block. And you will have to adjust as you move your feet over. So your feet are going to your left. So I'm going to talk about your feet for a moment. I know it's a lot of elements in this pose, right? But it's a nice one to introduce you to some of the finer things in yoga here. There are a couple of possibilities for classical foot position. Notice that my outside leg is underneath my inside leg, so my foot is sitting on the arch. You may be happy with that. You may also be very unhappy with that. So the other thing you can do is take the outside ankle and put it on the inside foot. Both of those are classically correct. You may find that, oh my God, I cannot take this kind of pressure on my feet, so you may have to have them next to each other. You may also discover that your ankles don't stretch in that direction, and you need a little bit of a roll underneath your ankles. Again, if none of this is possible, go to a chair and make it possible that way, right? What's most important here is being able to settle in on your sits bones, both of them, not just one. If you can't settle in, be on a higher thing. Put your hands on your hips for a moment, and can you lift your ribs straight up So they'll be pressing the top of the head to the ceiling. Then reach across the body. You can reach whatever you're sitting on or perhaps the floor behind you. And you're going to twist away from your feet. So this hip toward which you're twisting may want to follow the twist. Don't. That hip is going to press forward as your shoulder area, but it's your whole chest, not just your shoulders, twists in the opposite direction. We're doing most of the twisting in the rib cage, believe it or not. You may feel it in your waist, but it's the spine and the ribs that has all the joints that let us twist. If the neck feels like, oh my goodness, I've run out of fabric, I can't twist, turn the neck back and forth. Just let your head follow your nose back and forth. So we're twisting toward a hip that's pushing forward, or you can think of pulling the other hip back, the one that's closest to your feet. And next time you exhale, slowly let go of the twist. Very slowly come out. And then if you can sit on your heels in the middle, go for it. Otherwise, extend your legs out in front of you, bring them into neutral, and we'll set it up on the other side. So we're shifting our hips over the other direction. We're deciding where are we putting our feet, next to each other, inside foot on top, outside ankle on top. You may discover that one direction is much, much easier than the other. There's nothing wrong with you. We're all bilateral. Well, most of us are bilateral. We are definitely not symmetrical. If you feel like there was no way to get hold of the floor or the block that you were on, you can add another thing for that arm that's going to be behind you. But before we get anything actually twisting, I'm going to ask you again, how are your sits bones? Get them even. Weight on both. Then hands on hips. Lift the ribs up by pressing up and out the top of the head. And around you go. We usually exhale into the twist. And you want to be very careful about overdoing. We're not forcing here. And we are not letting the hips follow. When we let the hips follow, there can be some instability in the lower back that causes a whole lot of misery. If your neck feels very stiff and like it doesn't want to twist easily, don't force it. Just kind of loosen it up back and forth. I'm going to have you check again. Have your hips tried to follow the ribs? Or are you trying to do this just by twisting your shoulders, right? We are twisting the rib cage, not the shoulder blades moving around on your back, right? They may do some things, but it's not intentionally a shoulder blade exercise. And when you're ready to come out, wait for an exhalation and then very gently find your way out. And come on back to the middle. So if you're in a chair, I'm going to give you the version of what we're doing, but while I'm showing chair, the rest of you can get into constructive rest. That's lying on your back with your feet flat on the floor, knees bent. You may need a belt, probably not. If you're in a chair, you're going to move more toward the front of the chair. And you'll be letting one leg extend. So I'm going to lift up my left leg. Sorry, I'm going to lift up my left leg. I hope I'm mirroring you. And I'm going to lean back here with my knee pulled in. And then I will be taking my back off the back of the chair. I'm going to turn sideways so you can hopefully have a better view. So I've slid to the front of the chair, extended one leg, pulled the other knee in, and I'm leaning back to start with. But then I'm going to pull my chest up to the knee. Those of us on the floor are doing something similar. So let's leave the left leg where it is. Extend the right leg along the floor. See if you can get the back of the thigh to touch the floor there. Draw the other knee in. So left knee is coming toward the center of your chest or your nose. And on an exhalation, pull the chest to the knee.
So yes, we are using abs here, right? But how do you breathe in and out while you're continuing to use your abdominals? This is not a breath holding exercise. This may, by the way, for some of you, be a head holding exercise because that head can be heavy and those muscles on the front of the neck can be weak. Next time you exhale, draw everything just a little closer. And then as you inhale, come on down, constructive rest. And let's do the whole thing on the other side. So lengthen now your left leg, flip all the way down to the floor. Draw the right knee in, center of your chest. On an exhalation, draw the chest up. Some of you may find that there's too much pressure on the knee, holding over top. Feel free to hold underneath. If it's a real tough sell to get that knee that close, absolutely. Use a belt, a towel, whatever you've got. I'll remind you, you can support your head if you need it. Are you breathing? So we're looking to bring the breastbone, not just the head, not just rounding the shoulders. One more breath here. Breathe out. See if you can curl up a little tighter. And then come to constructive rest. Or if you're sitting in the chair, you're coming back to neutral. Stay there and take a couple of breaths if you have a moment. If you can relax, either in your chair or on the floor, go for it. If you need to get back to work or whatever, seriously, yay you for doing anything for yourself in this busy time. Take good care.